2 years ago, I was watching Valborg rafting in Uppsala from the sidelines. But this year, I was sinking with one of the rafts. But let's start from the beginning. What is this madness? Valborg, or the last of April, is a traditional spring celebration in Sweden, and there are various events all around. In the university town of Uppsala, one of the most exciting parts of the celebration is the rafting, where more than 100 of handmade rafts with students on board are going down Firis River, trying to survive 2 waterfalls along the way. Lots of people come to the city to watch the event, and it's even being streamed on a local TV channel. The rafts depart one after another and make their way to the city center. There, they line up for the main challenge. When the green flag is up, they should move towards the main waterfall and try to go through without turning over. There are divers ready to help those who failed mount their rafts again and continue to the second waterfall. To get a chance to build a raft, a student needs to enter a draw. I'm not a student but a researcher, but a raft carries up to 4 people. So 2 PhD students on our team entered, and one of them actually won a place. That's when the real work started. I am responsible for choosing Lord of the Rings as our theme, as I'm a huge fan, and I really wanted to be Gandalf. We made the plans, we estimated the size, and then, 2 weeks before the event, everyone started building. The first step in this whole building process is building what is called base. You get 3 pieces of styrofoam, and the largest one is supposed to be your base. It's rectangular initially, but you can kind of make it into whatever shape you want to. But mostly people either keep it without cutting or just cut 2 front edges. It's very nice that the building site is basically just by our university. You can see the building on the left. That's where we work. That's why we can kind of pop out during lunch, during coffee break, to do all the building. Unfortunately, the building site was only open from 10 to 4 during the work hours, which is very convenient for the students, but not for the researchers, as we are. For the base, you are allowed to use some wooden planks. Well, not allowed, you actually have to. You have to make it really sturdy. But it's also the only point where you're allowed to use nails, because in the rest of the building, you're only allowed to use the foam. As you can see this can that we're using now to connect all the styrofoam pieces together. When the base is done, it gets checked by one of the organizers, and they either allow you to start building your decorations on top or not. You only get 3 pieces of styrofoam, 1 for the base, 1 for the sides, and 1 for whatever design you want to have at the top. But if your design is really huge, you can get more pieces. But those are recycled from the previous years. So the organizers bring a bunch of styrofoam pieces from the previous years, and then you can grab whichever you like. Which is why we got this funny piece from the previous year, which we're planning to turn into the Eye of Sauron. At this point, we actually passed the base check, and we started working on our design. We started marking the styrofoam pieces, and then to cut those, you use this hot wire that you get on one side of the building site. The wire melts the styrofoam pieces really nicely, and you just need to follow your markings. To cut a larger piece, you can use one of those C shapes with a longer wire, which makes it really easy. The difficult thing about building a raft is that you cannot make it higher than 80 centimeters, because you have to pass underneath some bridges, which means that if you want to have it higher, you need to be able to remove the taller pieces, put them down, pass underneath the bridge, and then put them up. And we had 2 parts of our design that had to be above 80 centimeters. That was the Eye of Sauron and Mount Doom. Which is why, as you can see, we have to cut it into this funny shape, and then you are able to put your Eye of Sauron in or out. And here you can look at all different designs other people have. I still think that ours were the best. Well, I guess you can guess that I'm prejudiced, but there are some pretty amazing ideas all around. For example, this Tetris piece is really cool, isn't it? And then when you are done with the building, you have to pass another approval. And if you have done that, you are allowed to start painting. Initially, the paint that we got from the organizers was not really bright, I would say. At some point, I went to the shops and bought a brighter, much nicer paint, which I really wanted to have on our design. But at this point, you can still see the idea. During the first several days, the weather was great, but very annoyingly, when we started painting, it started raining, and we realized that rain actually washes away the paint if this paint is not cleared, which is why we had to kind of build a little tent above our raft and then apply this bright, nice paint that I bought. And then, when everything was done, we had to load our raft on the truck, pick up wetsuits, helmets and life jackets, which are mandatory to wear, and then buy appropriate costumes. In the morning, we had to be at the location really early. We even got some breakfast. And then we just had to wait for hours and hours. We even had plenty of time to get some pictures together. And check this out. Have you ever seen Dumbledore fighting against Gandalf? Well, now you have. And then we were ready to go.
English.
It actually took ages to get to the place.
I'm just filming, so I'm not rowing.
There were many people watching us, but there were also a couple of very annoying people. For example, there was a guy on the shore who was throwing water balloons at us, and he barely missed my camera, seriously. And then there were kids on this bridge with buckets full of water, and they were just spilling it onto the raft below them.
Yeah, I'm just trying to film, so not having my hands in front of me. Yeah, I think it's okay.
And then we finally got to the queue, and we had to wait for our green flag. Waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yellow for them.
Okay, we are finally allowed to go. Hold on to your seats. let's see what it looks like from the outside, because we have several friends filming us, and also we were appearing on the local TV.
Ready? I don't know. Yeah. The return of the. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! Save it, save it, save it. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, save it, save it. Come on.
For the next about 5 or 7 minutes, we were trying to save the eye, because it was floating just next to us. And eventually, we were actually able to do it and get it back.
Now, do you want to try getting this? Do you need 1 or 2 of these?
No, you're not allowed.
I mean, we can pretend that we lost them.
No, but we need to steer, Francesco.
Okay, sorry. Captain says no. Captain says no.
Come.
I wanted to. Yeah, we have 4.
Okay, give them one.
Okay. Wait a second.
According to the rules, you cannot really stand up in the raft, which is why your feet really fall numb. And then we finally got to the second waterfall, which is kind of the end of the journey.
Det är svårt med de höga tyngdpunkterna. Jag gillar när man ser lagmedlemmarna skaka på huvudet.
And here, again, you have some people who can save you if something goes wrong.
Idiots, we're not doing it, Francesco. Hey, take the eye!
And that was the end. Here we have to land. But as you can see, we still managed to save the Eye of Sauron. Now, it's in our division kitchen.
Thank you.
Then we got a chance to take a picture together, the picture after finishing the race.
There they are, the Brain Fellowship. They've completed their journey. Now they're celebrating. Woo! Fellowship! Woo!
And there it is. If you're interested in what happens to the rafts, that's what does happen to them. And actually, some of them will be recycled, and at least the bases of them will be used next year. That was indeed a very fun day. I really enjoyed it a lot. And when the rafting finished, people were still celebrating everywhere. Well, personally, I went home to dry my clothes and try to heal my blisters. But here is how the whole celebration in Uppsala ends.